Does a video game's first hour determine its value? With the fast-paced world we live in today, it can be tough getting people's full attention, and more important than that, their time. Every piece of media out there is trying their hardest to keep you entertained before you find something else to fill your time with. Video games have a different hand in this than other forms of media. Unlike an eye-catching movie poster and title when scrolling through Netflix, or an eye-popping short or reel that keeps you from scrolling past, video games get the benefit that most of their audience has already decided to spend their money and enjoy the product they just purchased. Based on many different factors from the genre, the developing studio, the story, and how much playtime hours the game offers. But what can happen if the first hour of that game isn't appealing to the player, or doesn't show them the full concept of what the game has to offer? That's the question I want to be answering today. Video games that offer a standout first level or an amazing memorable world have one of the toughest jobs to do. They have to captivate the player immediately and not necessarily show all of their cards, but show the player what kind of game this is and what the latter half of the game has to offer. Let's look at some examples of this in the 2D realm. First, starting with Sonic the Hedgehog. This game gaslighted an entire generation into thinking Sonic is fast, or that Sonic has to go fast. That is the whole staple of the series now, but with this first game, if you try and go fast, you're gonna die. A lot. Green Hill Zone is one of the best first levels in a video game of all time because it had the job of shaping Sonic's identity, and if it wasn't at the beginning of the game, the series could look completely different today. In Green Hill Zone, you have 3 different paths, and all of them send Sonic flying across the stage. But the next 3 stages have Sonic moving as slow as molasses and barely getting any time to speed up. It just feels like a Mario level with weird physics. Green Hill changed the 2D platforming genre on its own. This is an example of a first level that not only defines a whole series, but completely shaped what Sega's mascot would become to be. That's why now in the modern day, levels are focused solely on speed because that's why people want to play Sonic. Now, let's look at 2 more 2D games that give us more of an answer to the importance of a video game's first hour. Hollow Knight and Metroid Dread. Alright, now, both of these games are standout titles in the Metroidvania genre. Hollow Knight being one of the newer titles in this genre and has been dominating the past couple of years because of its incredible story and addicting gameplay, while Metroid Dread is considered one of the best 2D Metroid games ever released since Super Metroid on the SNES. So what did both of these games do right to propel their series to new heights and hook gamers into some pretty lengthy playtimes? Metroid Dread was released in 2021 and is the 5th installment in the 2D Metroid series. This game had a lot of weight to carry on its back, not only to show off the capabilities of the Switch, but to take the Metroid series to new heights, and prove the devs still had it in them, and they delivered. The first hour instantly feels different than what you have played before. It's familiar to previous games, but you automatically know something has evolved. The entire first level breaks down all the new mechanics you will learn in the game, while still keeping some cards close to their chest to not fully give away everything away until the end. And the story here doesn't fall flat at all. The beginning dialogue and cutscenes are really good and add another level to the hook of this game to keep the player exploring for more hours on end. Hollow Knight set the bar for new Metroidvanias as well. Hollow Knight's first hour, even its first 30 minutes are impeccable, quickly showing you how the game works and what the goals are with an easy tutorial where you get minimal story explained. It gives you enough to get hooked and then lets you do whatever you want. You get to go find the story in this game, and you decide how much dialogue you want to go through and which paths to take and characters to interact with, and Hollow Knight's first hour demonstrates that, all of it perfect to its audience. But games in the 2D realm don't cover all of our bases here. I want to move on to the 3D realm of gaming, starting with 2 massive games that do complement each other very well, as the devs for one were inspired by the other. These 2 games being Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring. Both games offer a real open world that allow the player to choose the story, path, and bosses at their own pace in whatever order they like, with some light pushing with the plot at several occurrences throughout the game. But these games' first hour are really what we want to look at. Both of these games feature a huge map with several dungeons and secret areas that add even more to their massive length, so their first hour has a lot to accomplish in order to hook consumers. Starting with Breath of the Wild, as most of you know by now, after the tutorial you are set off on your own with little guidance to literally do whatever you want, and same goes for Elden Ring. Elden Ring works a bit differently, as if you have played any Souls games at all before, then you know the gist of what to do here, but this was the first leap into a truly open world for both titles. But the beauty of it is that people who have never played any of those previous games from either series, and this is their first course into the Soulsborne buffet or Zelda special, they are in good hands. Now, granted, you aren't going to get very far in Elden Ring's first hour, but it has enough there to keep you invested. Overworld bosses and enemies, hillside caves and dungeons that you can see at a distance are what intrigues your curiosity to keep going. Anybody that loves a 3D open world, these two games are the best in that genre because it is truly an open world. These games are relying on you to get past the first hour because of how much they have to offer. Yes, it may be tedious and confusing at first, and you could make the argument that these games could suffer because of that, but with the gift of hindsight, we can see that definitely didn't happen for most people. These games sold like crazy, but they were big risks to take. So why were they so successful with a different first hour than most other games? Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring have a beautiful landscape and map that complements the game's atmosphere. The land of Hyrule and lands between are fully open to the player here from the get-go as soon as you get out to their respectful tutorials. And this could deter some players who don't like a playstyle like this, but the overworld is so full of just stuff that is so intriguing with so many moving parts that you want to just keep exploring. Their first hour isn't where the magic lies because it only offers 1% of the magic that these games have. Unlike some Mario or Sonic games, we saw that all the magic is right there in that first hour, and the game is pretty much the same after that, like Sonic 1 just absolutely dragging. But with games like Hollow Knight and Metroid Dread, plus our two 3D games we just discussed, their games are so massive that the first hour is solely responsible for intriguing gamers and hooking them in for the long haul. But not everyone wants to play a game like that, or has the time to. As I said in the beginning, video games are purchased by different types of audiences. So what about games for a different type of consumer that doesn't want a 100-hour plus open world? To wrap up my final point, I want to use two more 3D games that have an open world vibe, but their first hour are drastically different from our previous two games and offer entertainment for a different type of consumer. Let's look at Sonic Frontiers and Super Mario Odyssey. I know, another Mario and Sonic game, but they really define the point I want to make. Starting with Super Mario Odyssey, let's say the tutorial section is Cap Kingdom, and when you get to Cascade Kingdom, that's where the game really takes off. Cap Kingdom is a great tutorial as it offers a sliver of what the game has to offer, but pretty much gives you all the mechanics you will use throughout the rest of the game. Once you move on from this kingdom and get to Cascade, the game really picks up its speed, but you are still just at the beginning. The Cascade Kingdom offers a beautiful world with waterfalls and beautiful grasslands that you can see everything this sandbox has to offer you. You get some great moments like catching the dinosaur, going through the waterfall, and the boss fight at the end, and you are just sitting there like, oh my god, this game is amazing. And the best part of it is, that's only 10% of how incredible this game gets. You haven't even seen New Donk City or Lakeside Kingdom, you haven't even seen the highs and low parts of the Wooded Kingdom or how crazy Bowser's Kingdom is designed. Like, this game doesn't slow down. Even the second kingdom you get to encounter with the Sand Kingdom pretty much blows the first one out of the water. It's 10 times bigger, and you get an amazing showdown that offers an homage to a previous game in the series. Mario Odyssey's first hour not only intrigues the player, but it's what keeps the player going. After witnessing two amazing kingdoms within an hour, you are so ready to see what else lies ahead, and it settles you into the adventure. Now, for the opposite side of things, let's look at Sonic Frontiers, which we all probably know where I'm going with this. First thing out of the way, it's a fun game. Best Sonic has ever moved and looked in a while. They got the boost formula translated to an open world really well. But as far as the open worlds you get to run around and explore in, the first one you encounter is the highest high of the game, sadly. Okay, so the first island in Sonic Frontiers is amazing to me. As soon as you get done with the tutorial, you're able to run around this island at high speeds and pretty much do whatever you want. So yes, this game's first hour really helps its value in getting the player hooked to experience the rest of the game. This and Sonic 1 are two games we can look at where the first hour is the highest high and what really determines their game's identity. When you think of Sonic 1, it screams Green Hill at you. When I think of Sonic Frontiers, I think of a 1990s Windows desktop screensaver because that's exactly what the first island looked like and where I had the most fun with the game. Once you get past the first island though, the game kinda tapers down. Like the second island is fun, but there are way more 2D paths that you are forced into. Half the island looks the exact same as the other half, and then the islands just get worse after that. Losing detail throughout the world and the platforming sections they feature aren't as fun as the first two, and then to like top it all off, the last two islands are pretty much the first island, like literally. This is the importance of the first hour. Sonic Frontiers sold like crazy for a Sonic game, and helped put Sonic Team back on the map. So if they decide to put one of their other islands first, well, I can't imagine it would have sold as well as it did. I mean, the first boss fight is incredible, and the ones after that are just as fun as well, but with how bad the islands get, the motivation you have to get to the boss just kinda simmers down. Unlike with Mario Odyssey or even Breath of the Wild, where you are shown so many grand gestures and an amazing overworld that keeps you trudging along, a video game's first hour maybe shouldn't determine its value and worth, but the truth is, if the first hour isn't memorable, or doesn't offer a magical hook, or doesn't completely excite the player for the rest of the experience, how do we expect to put our time in and give the game our most precious attention? If Sonic 1 didn't have Green Hill first, Sonic wouldn't be where he is today, and I will stand by that. It changed the platforming genre. It made gamers want Sonic for speed, and luckily with Sonic 2, the devs stepped up and accomplished that goal. But the other side of the coin with Breath of the Wild, the first hour isn't even the best part of that game, but it calls to you to play more because of how much it intrigued you. Same for Elden Ring. While yes, Mario games offer us the magic right there at the beginning and introduce the game's full mechanics right at the start, the devs sometimes save their best ideas for the latter half of the game to keep the player intrigued, but always pull off a grand ending. You can argue a game's first hour is the most important thing the devs have to do, thus determining its worth, because they need the players to keep playing their game later on and spread positive views about the game. Whether the game tends to taper out and run out of gas towards the end, or the finale of the game being the best part it has to offer, players can't find that out unless they are motivated and hooked to get that far into the game. The first hour of a game is the most important job the devs have to do, because it can change an audience's mindset so much. It can gaslight a whole generation or get fans of a series they have never played before to dive right in head first. If the first hour isn't encapsulating, then it doesn't matter what the end of the game has to offer, because you won't get that far to see it. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, please don't hesitate to leave a like and subscribe to join the foxhole and keep up to date with the videos I put out. I will see you all in the next one. Peace.